Hi everybody, welcome to Training Camp Live presented by FedEx, a live look at the practice field here at Heinz Field. Steelers camp coming to a close at the end of this week. The Steelers practicing today starting at approximately 1:30. I am Missi Matthews with Mike Prisuta. The final stretch, as I said, it was supposed to rain all day, and now it is sunny and sweltering, and I'm sure Coach Tomlin is going to love this weather as the team tries to make some decisions before they really start the week one preparation.
Yeah, and the last time we heard from Mike Tomlin, he was talking about practicing with a sense of urgency and ramping it up and week to make a move and lean in week and all the Tomlinisms that you've come to know and love over the years. This is going to be a good couple days here at the end of the week to sweat it out a little bit, finish strong, and get ready for a week of regular season game week preparation as we eye September the 14th at
the New York Football Giants.
Thank you.
All right, there's TJ Watt. We saw the jugs machine is going. Guys are out here early. Practice not set to start until 1:30. There's Marquise Pouncey, Kevin Dotson. We're going to talk about a little bit later in the program. Tunch and Wolf are with us as well. We do want to see if we can find Dave DeCastro. Of course, Coach Tomlin told us after practice on Monday, Prisuta, that he is dealing with a lower body injury. He's managing it. The team is managing it, and they are hoping that he will be returning to practice sometime soon. But there is Ryan Switzer, somebody who's also been dealing with an injury. He was limited on Monday, so good to see him back out here with the pads on. Just to recap, not practicing along with DeCastro on Monday, rookie running back Anthony McFarland, and also long snapper Cam Canada. So we will do our best to spot those guys. Limited on Monday, Chris Wormley, Terrell Edmonds, Ryan Switzer, who you just saw there, Deontay Johnson, and Wendell Smallwood. So again, there is the O-line. As I always say, they always travel in a pack. Tunch and Wolf tells all the time that they do everything together. I am not seeing number 66 in terms of a jersey or somebody who looks like Dave DeCastro wearing the black hat, the black T-shirt, black shorts. So we will still,
black socks.
Again, practice does not start till 1:30, so there is still a little bit of time, so we will have to keep an eye on that. But I think Dave DeCastro is one of those guys, Prisuta, that we will closely be keeping an eye on this week.
Yeah, and the last we heard from Mike Tomlin, again, he said hopefully it'll be sooner that he'll be back out here. Hopefully he'll be back out here soon. The other thing that's a little curious to me about that is usually the guys that are injured are out there in something other than pads when it's a pads day, and we can tell who's not going to practice and who isn't as we get a look at
Cam Canada.
The long snapper, Cam Canada.
Pads on today. That's good.
Yeah. A little curious to me that David DeCastro not out there, but I would say it stops at this point at least far short of concerning Missi. Dave DeCastro has been there, done that guy. He is a known varsity guy. Give me another Tomlinism. Am I leaving any out? And David DeCastro, let's not forget, we've asked most, if not all, of our Zoom participants, what do you think? No preseason games. What's the impact going to be? I think David DeCastro was among the most vehement, if not the most vehement, that they are not necessary for veterans, and the Steelers are well positioned because of their continuity and the amount of veterans that they have, that they'll be just fine without them. So I think David DeCastro was out here for a little bit in training camp, and I think he's the type of guy at this stage of his career, presuming that he has kept himself in shape, which the way he was sporting that black T-shirt, I have no reason not to think he's in shape. I think, a good week for a Monday night game with an extra day should get him ready.
Yeah, and there is number 26, the rookie running back, Anthony McFarland, that we were talking about, who missed practice on Monday as well. So we'll be able to see what he does today in practice. Looks like a good sign that he is dressed and out there early, so we will have to keep our eye on him and pay attention to the poll report that comes out after practice in terms of how much he was able to participate. But as you said, getting ready for week one, and the Steelers' schedule this week, it is still training camp, but the players were off on Tuesday. That is what typically happens in a normal Sunday game preparation week. Of course, their first week one, there will probably be some bonus days because they will have an extra day to get ready due to playing on Monday night. So then that also means their week two will be a little shortened. So right away, they'll be dealing with a little bit of a difference in terms of how the team preparates, as we have mentioned multiple times. Coach Tomlin doing everything from hosting road and home mock games, scrimmages, the live tackling, special teams, taking advantage of the time that they have. It is the same thing all other 31 teams are dealing with. So very important for the Steelers to be as best prepared as possible. You mentioned Dave DeCastro. Every veteran player, Mike, that I feel like we've spoke to via Zoom has said that the good thing is they are a veteran team. They do not have a new head coach. They don't have a new quarterback. Of course, there's going to be new people no matter if it's COVID or not. But they are returning a lot of starters in a core group. So hopefully that can be a positive for them as they start their journey of the 2020 season.
Yeah, returning a lot of coaches, too. I think the lack of preseason games, if there's going to be any impact, Missy, I think you're going to see it. Well, it's happening now in terms of making it tougher to find those undrafted free agents or the guys that come out of nowhere. And usually there's at least one of those guys that makes a run, if not the actual roster. And the other impact I think you're going to see is on special teams. Now, Danny Smith has said this will not happen. His guys will be buttoned down. But I think it's a lot to ask guys who have never played in the NFL before or who are inexperienced at playing in the NFL to play a kicking game play that matters in a stadium with the lights on and not have things get kind of chaotic, and particularly when the guys they're going to be playing against are going to be by and large in the same boat. There are veteran teams and there are inexperienced teams, but usually even the veteran teams have some inexperienced guys covering the kicks and returning the kicks and things of that nature. So I'm going to pay particular attention to kicking plays starting regular season week number 1. But I think the offense and defense, after a reasonable acclimation period, is going to warm to the task.
All right, and going back to the pool report, the practice report, whatever we would like to call it at this point, from Monday, a lot of talk about Devin Bush. We've talked so much about the year 2 jump Coach Tomlin always expects guys to make, and that is something. There's Ben Roethlisberger, by the way. Looks like he's ready to go. I will be very surprised, Mike. Was not what I was anticipating heading into training camp if we were only going to see number 7 take one day off while we are here.
Yeah, he is here for a reason, and he's definitely got an agenda, and he's looked real good. The timing was a topic that came up after the last practice, I believe, with Roethlisberger and his receivers, and that, to me, is starting to come. It's something that normally takes a while, but the arm strength has been there. We haven't heard Mike Tomlin comment on Roethlisberger's spiral in a while, so maybe that'll come up after practice today. Mike Tomlin had said on a couple of occasions early in the process that he has seen Roethlisberger's spiral tighter. But, boy, everybody that's talked about Ben from a player perspective has been raving about him. Randy Fichtner's been raving about him. It's good to have the franchise quarterback back.
Yeah, and speaking of which, he also played referee on Monday. The Steelers doing a little goal line drill in the last team period. He did not take part, as I said. He played referee, but almost picked off, though, going back to Devin Bush a little bit earlier in practice. And Tomlin, according to the report, kept reminding him 2 hands on that 55, something that, Coach Tomlin knows what makes each guy tick. So maybe that is something that Devin Bush needed reminded about on Monday as he continued throughout another competitive practice.
Yeah, and that's the emphasis for this team, and it's been this way for a long time. It actually worked last year. Emphasize taking the ball away, and lo and behold, when you get to a real game, you start taking it away. And the Steelers took it away better than anybody else a year ago, Missy, but that doesn't mean you can't get more. And they don't want to leave any on the field. They don't want the ball hitting the ground if somebody throws it to them. They want to catch it. The players have talked about part of that emphasis being even when there's an incomplete pass, usually somebody from the defense will run over and pick the ball up and start running with it, just in case. You never know. Worked out that way last year against the L.A. Chargers in that soccer stadium.
I remember what Devin Bush did there.
I know you loved that place. I surely loved that place. I'm going to miss it. It was one of the great NFL venues. Phillip Rivers, did he throw it? Did he fumble it? And some of the people on defense thought the ball was dead. Devin Bush picked it up and ran it into the end zone just in case. And guess what? Touchdown.
That was definitely a home game. I just want to go back to that stadium. That was a Steelers home game, no question about it. That
was the percentage rivaled any. I forget what that place held, 22,000 or
it was smaller,
26,000, something of that nature. But the percentage of Steelers fans versus the full house was as large as I've seen it. Maybe the Detroit Super Bowl. I think I counted about 11 Seahawks fans at the Detroit Super Bowl. I'm only exaggerating a little bit. That Detroit's a short drive from Pittsburgh, and the Steelers.
That's why we love Steelers fans.
They took that one over. They've taken them over before. Arizona was a pretty profound takeover in a much bigger venue.
The West Coast, those were some good trips, minus maybe that 49ers game. A heartbreak of a loss, pretty much. Knowing that, and I watched Ben Roethlisberger's Bigger Than Ben episode 2 drop this morning. I don't know if you caught it, but he had footage that his wife had shot of him in the hotel room having to watch that game and cheering for Mason and not being able to be there. And that's why quickly after Ben's surgery, we saw in week 4, it was that Monday night game against the Bengals here, the Steelers' first win. Number 7 was down on the sideline, trying to do whatever he could. You could just tell from the video. Again, it was home video, but that he just could not believe he was not there with his team.
Yeah, and that, that was brought up in terms of Roethlisberger's understanding of what that's like. When Kevin Dotson went down, I think it was the second day in pads.
Yeah.
He suffered that knee injury, and he stayed down on the field for a while, and Ben Roethlisberger ended up being one of the guys that helped him off the field. And at that point, Dotson is understandably frightened and uncertain about his immediate future. And Mike Tomlin cited the leadership Roethlisberger displayed because, in part, he's been in that position. He knows what it feels like, and he just wanted to do what he could to kind of ease Kevin Dotson's mind at that point. But you get a good look at him there. He's back. He came back for the mock road game. And as he told us the other day, he wound up in there with the known varsity guys, with the ones, because in part the early absence on the part of David DeCastro. Kevin Dotson seems like a 10-year vet, doesn't he? I mean, once he got past the excitement of being drafted by the Steelers,
right,
who he grew up rooting for because his dad grew up rooting for them. He has talked in very succinct terms about believing he belongs and, willing to certainly go through the process and do everything he's got to do to prepare himself and acclimate himself and transition himself. But he dropped an interesting line the other day, Misty. It wasn't anything as splashy as the stuff he was telling us on draft day, about intimidating the opposing defense by telling them to play and then running it successfully anyway. But he talked about actually playing for the Steelers, the team he grew up rooting for, and he said, I realize now I am a Steeler, and someday somebody's going to be rooting for me. And I think he gets it, is I guess the point I'm laboring to make.
All right. Well, I like the segue that you have here. Kevin Dotson, as you mentioned, Mike, after practice on Monday, spoke to the media via Zoom. So let's take a quick listen to that, and then we will welcome in Tunchokin.
Yeah, it kind of gets your heart bumping. I think that helps me in most situations, kind of get my adrenaline up. It makes me think faster, move faster, go a little harder. So I was glad he put in that situation to be able to at least show my skill.
Hey, Kevin, obviously you're a rookie that missed a lot of time because of the lockdown. Do you think that's hindered you at all for having a chance or a chance to, get playing time or start this year? If there wasn't a lockdown, do you think that you would have a better chance of seeing more playing time early this year?
I don't really like to think about the woulda, coulda type things, just kind of go with what's happening right now. Feel like I'm doing good enough to at least be seen. So I'm not really worried about those type of things right now. I feel like I can make an impact no matter what happens.
Hey, Kevin, 2 parts. When the day you went down in practice, when you were laying there, what was your initial thought? How fearful were you? And 2, you talked about getting back in there the other night right away. How important was that after that missed time to be able to get some time where they can evaluate you?
I was kind of when it first happened, I was like truly scared just off of the initial pain. But after I started walking, it started kind of getting a little better. So I kind of eased my mind a little bit. But getting in the game definitely was something I really wanted to do. Wanted to make my impact, get seen, just because if you know me or my dad, you know that I'm not one person to sit out for a long time. I feel like if I sit out, that people start to think that you're soft or that you don't want to really work or you don't want to be out there. And it kind of was my proving time. And the fact that I got to go in there with the ones was just an added bonus.
All right, Tunch, that was Kevin Dotson, the rookie offensive lineman, on Monday after practice. Just a quick note, I still have not spotted Dave DeCastro out on the field, in any form or fashion. It looks like Stefan Wisniewski, number 61, might be getting a vet's day off. But going back to Dotson, Tunch, what do you like about this guy, and what has he shown you in this limited training camp exposure?
So, Missi, I love his confidence. You know, he's a mauler, and he comes off the ball real quick, and then he gets his hands inside and he drives guys off. So I love his run blocking, and he's got a little bit of a nasty streak in him. When the guy's going down, he throws them down. And, I just watched him come out early, and he was doing his pass sets, and he's really quick off the ball. He gets his hands up fast. He gets his feet stationary fast. And, I love when he punches, and he uses his hands well, and he's very physical. And, I said I love his confidence, and that confidence will bode him well.
Tunch, we just heard in the clip from Kevin Dotson right before we brought you aboard that he had gotten some time with the ones. The practice report from the most recent practice talked about his work in one-on-ones and said it took Dotson one rep to knock the rust off, but he went on a long winning streak during one-on-one drills. How important are those, and what do you learn when you're watching one-on-one drills, O-line versus D-line?
I watch the hands come up quick, Mikey. One of the things that when we were young players, we didn't want to give up a sack in one-on-ones. And so we punched hard. We punched hard. And I think that he's going to punch hard. He keeps his hands a little bit too low, and that will enable the defensive lineman to swat his hands down. But I like that guy, and I watched his feet, and he went on 6 stuffs on pass blocking, and that's when you stuff a guy, you build confidence, and you build confidence, and then when you're young and you come out there, I won my first time one-on-one pass blocking against Joe Green, and I was scared to death. But when you play well, your confidence builds, and then you come up to the line of scrimmage and you go, yeah, I could do this, and so that's what I watched in him.
All right, Tunch, sticking with the O-line, I know you like that so much. Mike and I were just talking about how this is not a veteran team, but they are returning a lot of guys. Right. There's a lot of guys you want to see the year 2 jump, maybe even year 3. But among the O-line, there's a lot of years of experience there. So who's standing out to you, and what's some observations of them as a unit so far?
Well, Alejandro is sticking out to me. Yeah, when he came into camp, I looked at him and I said, man, he was big. His pipes were big. His chest was big, and he was punching well. And one of the things I think that he punches well, and he traps well. With the trap move is when the guy gets his hands inside of you, or one hand inside of you, and you trap it down, and he falls down. And he's been doing that really well. And I talked to him. I said, Alejandro, I said, man, you're punching the lights out of those guys. And he said, yeah, Tunch, I've practiced punching on the off season, and I want to punch all the way and punch the guys down.
Tunch, looking at his play last year, pretty good pass pro. Maybe could be a little better run blocking. Would that be the emphasis going into this year if you were Alejandro Villanueva?
Well, I would have worked on my pass blocking last season because, he didn't play as well as the year before. And so one of the things he did, I see him, and his footwork's good, and his hand placement is good, and he punches it, and he punches that good. And so I started in 1983. I started working with a karate guy, Sarge Edwards, and he taught me how to punch really, really, really well. And so and I did that for 10 years in the off season with him. And so coming into the season, you're not as tentative, you're not as rough, and you don't have as much rust on you, and so you punch, and it's good.
All right, Tunch. Well, thanks for joining us today. As always, we appreciate your insight, especially the player spotlight on Kevin Dotson. Sticking with the O-line just quickly, for those who have joined us, we have not seen Dave DeCastro out on the practice field as well from Monday. He's not out here again today. The Steelers are in the individual warm-up section of practice. It looks like Stefan Wisniewski, who is out there, no pads on, maybe a vet's day off. We'll have to find more from Coach Tomlin after practice. But some good news in terms of Cam Canada and Anthony McFarland, both with pads on today. I did spot kicker Chris Boswell, no pads on for him, Mike. So again, we will figure it all out, and the practice report will tell us a lot more, as well as Coach Tomlin following practice. But as it is the final few practices here at Heinz Field for the Steelers in terms of training camp, Kevin Colbert and the scouting department, the personnel department, will be working, because on Saturday at 4 p.m. New York time, as the league likes to list it, that is player cutdown day. So there are 80 players. Of course, the practice squad is a little bit different this year due to COVID-19, but there will have to be some decisions made from that department and Kevin Colbert by the time we get to Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, not as many as usual. The 53-man roster will be complemented by a 16-man practice squad. There are 6 veteran exemptions, and the path for getting a guy up from the practice squad to the active roster is much easier if need be because of the COVID-19 concern. So this has been a little bit of a different training camp. We've seen the Steelers make some acquisitions. Wendell Smallwood would be an example. J-Ron Elliott would be an example of players who have been in the league that I'm not saying these guys are going to end up on the practice squad.
Curtis Riley.
A player of that experience level may end up on the practice squad this year, where in a traditional year you would be more interested in a developmental project. Now you want to have a guy just in case you need him, because, hey, you got to acknowledge you might need them more this year than you ever have.
Absolutely. Somebody who is participating today in practice is our good friend Craig Wolfley, so we want to welcome him into our training camp live presented by FedEx. Wolf, what do you make of these last few days of practice as the Steelers are getting ready to start week 1?
Wait a minute, Missy. Just for the sake of nightmares that I used to have, I'm watching practice, okay? Not participating in. Just want to make that perfectly clear.
You're always all in. You know it.
Always all in, yes. We're coming down to the wire, guys. I mean, this is where it's at. This is what's important. Guys that have been here, through the phase 1, phase 2, whatever they call those things, and how they've ramped things up. Well, it's now coming down to the last few days. And I remember as a young guy, I heard Tunch talking earlier, 40 years ago, there we were up at St. Vincent College. And I remember when you had the press guys come around, they go, well, you're coming down to the last cut days. What are you going to do? And I said, no problem. I said, I'm going to go book myself a hotel room under a false name. And the guy looks at me with big eyes, and he goes, they'll find you. And I go, I'm joking, okay? But that's the way it is. I mean, it's coming down to it.
Oh, Woof. We love the stories. We do have some fan questions for you today, so let's get to a few of them, if you will. Heather writing in, how many of this year's draft class do you see making the 53-man roster?
Wouldn't you know it? They start off with a math question. Okay, I mean, right off the top. You look at it, you can see, the things right now that you look at are the first 4 guys. I think they got to be locks, between Chase Claypool, and you got yourself Alex Highsmith, and you got yourself Anthony McFarland, and, of course, Kevin Dotson. Those 4 guys. Then you're going to see how the Antoine Brooks and so forth, how those guys will do. But the first 4 guys, especially, I got to tell you something, man. Watching Dotson the other day, I was really invigorated with this young man. I know that you guys have talked about him already. I throw my 2 cents in and say, I can say this. Pittsburgh, his name is Kevin Dotson, and you're going to like him.
Yeah, Wolf, I have all of them making the roster except Carlos Davis, who
that could be a problem, yes.
but
if practice squad, possibly.
Oh, I think practice squad definitely. I mean, I did my 53.
Did you already do it?
If you want to get a shot of this, just my humble opinion, I've
and look at that nice handwriting.
It out, but I think Davis not making it, to me, Wolf, speaks at least as much to the depth they suddenly have on the defensive line. Guys such as Isaiah Buggs and Henry Mondo and the new improved Dan McCullers. Then I think that's at least as much responsible as Davis' play has been in camp. The rest of those guys, the other ones are all making the team, and I think we're going to see impactful performance from Claypool, from Highsmith. Not going to count Dotson out like you just said,
right.
And then we'll see about the rest. But I think so far at least.
McFarland's intriguing, Mike.
Yeah.
Just because of the fact when you can step on that high gear, that hyperspace, the one I always love backs that can take it to the end zone. They don't go 85, 90 yards and then get caught on the 5 or 3 yard line, and the fat guy's got to hoof it down there at 80 yards and pick them up and then go run another play. Yeah. I like the guys that go boom into the end zone.
Go ahead and score. Get it over with.
Yeah, we can sashay our way down there for the extra point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I guess in the early going, at this stage, the draft appears to be fulfilling what they thought it would in terms of what it's bringing to the table.
No question about it. Of anybody, I think that got hurt the most by the lack of preseason OTAs, it's Kevin Dotson. Kevin Dotson, had he been given the OTAs, the mini camps, the preseason games, I think he just might have made a serious push. It's going to be a while now before we see what he's capable of doing. Chase Claypool, he is better than his all his acclamation stuff was. I mean, he is really top-notch stuff.
All right, Wolf, another fan question for you. Let's see who this one is from. Daniel wants to know, do you think Dave DeCastro will be ready to start the season given all of the practices that he has missed?
If David missed every practice up until the day before, I wouldn't have a problem with it because he's that good. The fact of the matter is he knows what it takes to be, in the lineup, get the job done. He knows his assignments. Physically, he'll, if they were able to put him in the lineup, they would only put him in the lineup if he was physically capable. He's dealing with a mysterious lower body injury, and you know how those go. Those are well-guarded secrets. So we don't know what it is he's facing. But I do know this, if he heals up enough and he gets at least a practice day, I'm good with that. If he just heals up the day before the Giants game, I'm still good with that because he is that good.
Yeah, and I think Mike Tomlin will be good with that as well, Wolf. His standard operating procedure in these instances, if you are a known varsity guy, you can play without practice. I'm not saying DeCastro's not going to practice next week, but,
Exactly.
In the event, if you're a first or second year guy, they want you to have those prep reps. They want to make sure that you're going to know what to do and when to do it because they haven't seen you do those things enough to trust you. DeCastro is trusted, and, until the ball kicks off and he's not there, I'm going to expect him to be there.
Exactly so.
And we are taking a live look at the Steelers' offensive line as the team is moving through individuals of their practice here at Heinz Field. Final stretch of training camp. Just a minute ago, you could see number 61, Stefan Wisniewski. Again, no pads, but he's out there. I am assuming a vet's day off. We'll see what Coach Tomlin says after practice. Wolf, another fan question for you, if you'd be so kind to stick around with us. This one is from Ted. He wants to know, do you guys feel like there's any advantage or disadvantage to having no crowd when maybe some other teams do? Or should there be a league mandate where every team does the same thing? Wolf, what is your take on this?
I don't think it's really going to matter much because whether it's 10,000, 12,000, it's really not going to be all that noisy. They're going to have an ambient sound pumped in. It's going to be the same decibels, supposedly for everybody, because Chan Gailey did make the great point. What happens if you get a homer playing with the knob on third down? That could be a problem. But the fact of the matter is, whether you have that many people, I'll leave off with what Cliff Stout did. All right, Stouter was a quarterback here, played for the Birmingham Stallions of the USFL. They went out to L.A. to play the L.A. Express way back in the 80s. Now, they played in the L.A. Coliseum, which seats, somewhere around 110,000, 115,000 people, right? Well, they had 3,000 people in attendance. Stouter said we had to huddle up real tight, face-to-face, and whisper in the huddle because you didn't want those guys over there to hear what you're saying. So I think it's going to be the same for everybody. I wouldn't worry about it, but at the same time, if they wanted to go and say, Bupkis, nobody's coming the first 2 weeks, and then we'll start rolling people, and that would be all right too.
Yeah, I think ideally you'd like to have everybody on the same playing field, but this is a goofy year. It's an unprecedented year.
Right.
And, ticket sales revenue helps drive up. That's shared revenue. That helps drive up the salary cap. And there's a lot of concern about how low the salary cap might go without fans next year. So to me, since there's no national policy on outdoor gatherings and things of this nature, it's up to the individual areas, be it state governments or whoever's making the call in whatever state. If you can do it, do it. I think it'll all come out in the wash. The Steelers have to play at Dallas. There's a lot of speculation that the Cowboys are going to try to have as many fans as they possibly can. Steelers also play at Jacksonville. At last check, the Jaguars were planning on having 25% capacity. Wolf, if the Steelers play down there, that might be 24% Pittsburgh fans and 1% Jacksonville fans. That might be a problem. I'm not being wise acre
No,
here.
you're being perfectly correct, Mike.
We've seen it. This could happen. So, again, in a perfect world, everybody's on the same playing field, but we are all well aware by now this is not a perfect world, and whatever they can do to generate revenue and keep that cap climbing, the higher the salary cap is, the better it is for teams, the better it is for players, and the better it is for the fans.
Let me just finish by saying what I'm looking forward to are some of the, let's say, conversations that might evolve from some confrontations on the field. That could be fun.
I will also say, guys, on Friday night when the Steelers did the mock road game, they were playing some of the music, the ambient noise, again, a little bit different from the first one when it was a home game. And, Mike, we were broadcasting the entire practice live, and I was pleasantly surprised with how loud it was. I felt like I needed to not scream into my mic to talk over it, which is a natural thing to do. But, if we didn't have these headsets on, there was a really good chance you and I weren't going to know what the other person was saying.
Yeah, I just think they need to refine their game a little bit. I've heard the ambient, low-level background noise, but if you're going to do it as if there's one home team and one road team, then it has to go up on certain occasions. If the visiting offense is trying to run a play on third down, it should be louder. If the home team is trying to run a play on third down, it should be quieter. Unless, of course, it's the Steelers at Jacksonville, then you reverse it because that's the way it's going to work out anyway, and you won't need the low-level ambient noise. But it's interesting. The other sports, I don't know how much baseball or hockey or basketball you're watching, but you hear it a little bit, and then after a while, you don't even notice it's there because you're so, at least in my case, you're so happy to be watching live sports that count. Everything else kind of is secondary.
I will say this. One of the best questions you could ask Tunch was about the time he was trying out a prototype earpiece in the mid-'80s when we played in the Superdome, the Metro Dump up in Minneapolis back in the day, right? And in the middle, we're in the huddle, and they were getting ready. He's banging his helmet like crazy. He's got this microphone so he can hear the quarterback snap count, right? So they're trying to, he's banging his helmet, and here he's got music like you'd hear in a dentist's office or an elevator playing in his ear during the game. Drove him crazy.
All right. Well, if we appreciate your time, as always, thanks for hanging out with us. We will see you a little bit later this week as well. And, Mike, just to recap and finish this last question and what we were kind of kicking around here, Commissioner Roger Goodell spoke on a conference call yesterday with national reporters, and at one point he was asked about, some teams being able to have fans, some not. The fact that a lot of teams are saying we're not having fans through this period, then we will reevaluate. And he said, quote, "We may be having a lot of teams that will start with no fans in the beginning of the season and evolve to fans." He said, quote, "We do not believe it is a competitive advantage for those that will have the fans early." So I think time will tell. I also think
that's what he said, huh?
That is what he said. Yes.
Okay. Well, he's the commissioner, so he's certainly entitled to his opinion.
I am drawing a blank on which player it was, but when we were talking via Zoom, they said that for them, having fans and the noise, that never affected them. Coach Tomlin made the point that you can't be just a practice player, but in this case, you have to be a practice player, not just a game player, because in order to make the team, you have to show them that you deserve to be kept with what you do during training camp. So I do think it is individual for every player. Some people probably feed off of the crowd, as we saw from both mock games and scrimmages here at Heinz Field. It is very weird with players running out of tunnels and nobody cheering them on or, getting them amped up. So we will see what it looks like week one.
Couple things. This is a great drill, isn't it? It looks like it's something out of that movie Hellboy with the, the big red arm with the gun on the end of it. The fans thing, Vance McDonald went as far as to say
It was Vance. Thank you.
he thought he would be better without the fans. Now, he acknowledged, hey, if I make a big hit or a long catch, something that happens that I'm the winner, sure, you get a rush out of the people cheering for you. But he thinks the concentration is going to be up. He called it players being able to operate in their objective space. I remember that because I'd never heard that previously, and it obviously
it stuck with you.
Made an impression with me. But also, Vance talked about the ripple effect it's going to have on teams, Missy. If you don't have to devote X number of minutes in a practice week to dealing with the noise and getting your silent count down and all those things, you have much more time and energy to devote to honing your game, and that might have an interesting impact.
All right, another player who has been mentioned in the poll report over these last few weeks we had a chance to hear from today, and that is Marcus Allen. I'm not sure if I should call him a safety or an inside linebacker because according to inside linebackers coach Jerry Olszewski, better known as Jerry O, that is an affectionate term, he has been working with inside linebackers, and Marcus said, Mike, that when he played at Penn State, he was mostly in the box, and he is very excited to showcase his talents there as they push through the final days of training camp.
Yeah, his name's been coming up, and it's been coming up from the right people, and we'll see. I think it's been tough for him to get on the field at safety, and it appears to me at least that there might be a clear path at that hybrid linebacker position, and Marcus Allen seems to really be embracing it. He's a long way from polished at it yet, but Jerry Olszewski's excitement got my attention. What did he say, 2 or 3 times? That, hey, Marcus Allen likes to run into people. He likes to hit people. If you're going to be a defensive football player, you got to be that first. You got to like to run into people and knock them down. If you can do that, you got a shot at figuring out the rest.
And speaking of Jerry O and Marcus Allen and the inside linebackers there, we're taking a live look at them as they are getting ready to finish up the individual portion of practice here at Heinz Field for the Steelers. So we will see where that leads for him. A 5th-round draft pick, somebody who maybe didn't make an impact initially as he had hoped he would. I remember back to his rookie minicamp dealing with some injuries, but it seems like the versatility is paying off in terms of trying to carve out a role for him this year on the 2020 roster for the Steelers. So again, cut downs for the Steelers and all the other teams have to be done by 4 p.m. on Saturday.
Already done.
Well, that's the Mike Prisuta edition.
Here's the team. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You'll have to wait till Saturday, but this is it.
All right. Speaking of Ben Roethlisberger, because we can never talk too much about number 7, he talked about having some jitters just at practice. There's the horn. They're heading into the competition period. But he has also been giving us a pretty cool look into his journey back from surgery and missing almost all of the 2019 season. Episode 2 of Bigger Than Ben dropped today on the YouTube page, so we want to give you a little preview of that in case if you've not checked it out just yet.
Team 1-3, 1, 2, 3, team!
I think this year's team is special because we've got a good group of guys that have kind of come up together now. We're not a young team anymore. We've got some older players, some veteran guys that are kind of in that 10, 11-year range. And we've all been together for a while now, and we've got a good mix of like 2nd, 3rd, 4th year guys that are really talented. And so you kind of get that good combination of older guys and younger guys that believe in each other. This team is as much about each other as any team I've been a part of. I saw that last year even, guys fighting for each other, competing for each other. And so I'm just excited to be a part of a group of guys that really believes in each other and wants to play and win for each other.
All right, and again, you can watch episodes 1 and 2 of Bigger Than Ben, an inside docu-series by Ben Roethlisberger. Some of his friends helped him work on it. A lot of home videos. That is on the Rep 1 Football YouTube page, so make sure you guys check that out. He's been dropping episodes every Wednesday at 9 a.m. So we'll get another one before we get ready to see them play in some action. It's exciting.
And then we'll see them play in some action. I don't know
it's happening, Prisuta.
I don't know about you, Missy. I think it's going to happen. I'm starting to get a little wound up here.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of Training Camp Live presented by FedEx. Thanks so much for joining us. For Mike Prisuta, I am Missi Matthews, Coach Tomlin live after practice, and then our wrap-up show. We hope you join us then.